So, just for clarification, once and for all, for myself, as a result of George A. Romero's unbelievable Dawn of the Dead in '78, who collaborated with one Dario Argento, who then had marketing rights and release rights in Europe, it opens up the gateway to what we would now call Zombie 2, because Dawn of the Dead was marketed as Zombie. So Lucio Fulci in '79 will create an incredible film that we all love. But because it's Zombie 2, in '88, another one will come, and it'll be Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. But wait a minute. Shouldn't it be just Zombie 3? Because Zombie Flesh Eaters is actually Zombie 2. And if you talk about Zombie Flesh Eaters 3, what you're talking about is Zombie 4. Confused?
BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, and I'm your Wednesday reviewer for BodyBags, and it is always a pleasure and a privilege to be here doing this. Of course, this is fun. So, this week, changing things up a little bit. As you can see, we're going with Zombie Flesh Eaters 2, or Zombie 3. Yeah. So, here it is. '88 release, and of course, this is, well, here's where we get to talk a little bit. This is directed by Lucio Fulci. He gets credit. I watched this just, I think, twice over the weekend. But Bruno Mattei had to come in to wrap things up. Now, we know him from Hell of the Living Dead and a slew of others. And well, I've heard two different stories on Fulci. Let's just say he got sick, and he had to leave the project. I think ultimately, in the end, about 40 minutes of his work is left in, and Bruno Mattei finishes the rest. Now, I'll say this: Derek or a Cinemattack, or even Moods over at 22 Shots, Moods and Horror, probably would have, I'm sure, not probably, would have a much better grasp on this overall. But Fulci gets credit, which is cool. And but Bruno Mattei, now that creates a different type of film. Now, it is Zombie 3 or Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. This is the direct follow-up to Lucio Fulci's epic piece we just simply know as Zombie. Okay, but because, well, it stars Deran, Sarafian, Beatrice Ring, and Ottaviano Dell'acqua? Is that right? Dell'acqua? He is the one who plays maybe one of the most famous zombies in history, of course, from Lucio Fulci's masterpiece we know as Zombie, or Zombie 2, or Zombie Flesh Eaters. Anyways, so really the point here is, let's just get into let's plot real quick. It's an interesting story. So immediately, as soon as the film opens up, you realize already it's a little bit different of a vibe than the original zombie classic that we all know. This is 1988, and so we've got some years spread between '79, of course, with Zombie, or Zombie 2. And because of the director, having a piece in, and Mattei having a piece in, right off the bat, the vibe is different. But basically what you have is these researchers are, I guess they're attached to the military. They're working on this death serum, or I've already forgotten the name of it, but they're working on this serum that reanimates the dead. And right off the bat, we're given a pretty cool practical, probably some bladders and stuff, but it's a cool effect where the person or the dead person they're using the serum on fully animates, and when they come to life, it just bad things happen to the person who's coming back. And as a result, the doctor basically says, I'm out of this equation, and the military says, fine, whatever, we'll come grab the serum. And so in the process of exchanging the serum, these terrorists or criminals, whatever, they show up hoping to get their hands on this thing, and during the firefight, they're killed, but one of the guys is able to, in his escape with this serum, he ultimately will fall. Somehow the serum breaks open. He gets infected. That's the word I was looking for. And from there, it just goes from bad to worse for everyone. Now, there's a lot going on here. I mean, there's you got some soldiers on leave, short few day leave, who are just looking for some girls and whatnot. They sort of fall into this. You get a couple out there driving along that will ultimately become part of the story. You've got the military that is launching this crusade to basically wipe everything out, right? So that their own butts are cleared. And you've got the scientists, of course, and so you've got a lot of things going on, and that probably, I'm not actually going to say it acts as a negative, because I think it's more of a positive, actually, because it allows the film to move really quick. I mean, this movie, as it begins, it's over, and it really doesn't have a dull moment. There's just so much going on in this thing. In the music, Minetti, I think I'm getting it right, Stefano Minetti. I'm hearing some of the music during the course of the film, and I'm wondering, I've heard this before, and so of course I'm IMDbing like I do everything, and he's got a connection to stage fright, and I'm like, that's it, there is something. I don't know if it was directly stage frightish, but that's where it was. I've heard it before. So that's interesting. Frgasso's got the writing credits. Of course, he'll direct the follow-up to this one. So you got basically you got this infected person who wanders into this resort or this hotel resort, checks in, gets a room, and that scene is actually kind of funny, how that sort of unfolds, and the military catches up, and really you have this moment in the film where containment's reached, and the military gets their hands on the remains of the infected person, but they choose, now remember, this is 1988, right? So they choose to put the remains in an incinerator and burn them up. Well, the doctors who helped create the serum, of course, they have a problem with this. And their argument is, aren't the ashes, once it gets it up into the air, going to infect? And the General Morton, I think it was his name, the guy in charge of the military, who just wants to wipe everything out, the zombies, civilians, because they might be infected. It's science fiction, right? Here's the first thing I thought about at that moment, Return of the Living Dead. That comes out in 85. And that's not the only scene in there that I felt like this movie sort of piggybacked on. Now, I have not heard anyone else bring this connection up, and so if someone else has throughout the Horrorphilia network, I'm sorry if I piggybacked off of you, but I thought about this last night, especially when I was watching this. There's a scene where one of the characters is in the car, and he's, of course, been infected, and he turns into a zombie, and I think it was actually Patricia says, are you all right? And he's like, yeah, but I'm thirsty for your blood, and I'm thinking, Return of the Living Dead. And then you've got this, seemingly contained event, and once the ashes and stuff gets up into the atmosphere, it affects a flock of birds, and then from there on, it just goes from bad to even worse and worse. And you got a central core group of characters that you sort of follow throughout the rest of the film and to the very end, in which, it's funny, the very end sort of reminded me of, either Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead, and how either of those two films end. But this film is interesting. It's, you know, with Bruno Mattei involved, and of course Lucio Fulci, there are moments that you can see the Fulci effect. But more than not, you feel the Mattei effect. I mean, that's just me. That's my take. In fact, I would say this film, unlike Zombie, and even maybe unlike Hell of the Living Dead, falls somewhere in between those two films, which borrows from some other films that, you know, came out. You know, I'll even throw in Humanoids from the Deep. There's a scene in there that I totally thought about humanoids in 1980. So I think it's a film that has DNA of Fulci's classic, Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead, but then chooses to grab onto some other elements, and between the music and the fast-moving pace and the varying levels of characters and as the plot, you even got zombies coming out of the lake. You've got a flying skull, which of course is attributed to Fulci. You just got so much going on. It's fun. It's a fun film. Now, if you go into this thinking completely and absolutely, well, this is just Lucio Fulci and this is an extension of Zombie from '79, you're in for a surprise, and it may not be a good one. But if you go in understanding that this is a film that survived the process of losing its director and still being made and finding its end result, you're gonna find a film that's actually really enjoyable. And I really like, and you know, I was thinking somewhere 6, 5, 7, but you know, the more I think about how this film could have just been a disaster and just never been finished because of the exit of Fulci, I'm pretty impressed this film got completed. And so it's interesting. I don't know if I was quite ready for the shift in vibe away from the original Zombie, but then I did have a little bit of reading the excerpt out of Stephen Thrower's Beyond Terror. I kind of got an understanding that be ready for something different. And so I would say, you know, if you've never seen Zombie Flesh Eaters 2 or Zombie 3, and again, that's the cover, which is a pretty, familiar cover. Watch it, but watch it with the understanding that this is sort of an in-between of Mattei and Fulci, and what you get out of it is something fun. And the practical effects, it's not as gory or quite as bold is Fulci's first entry. But the opening sequence, and there's a few sequences throughout that are they're good. In fact, there's some moments that get really atmospheric and even scary at some points. But it's its own film. Now I have not seen the follow-up to this. Fergasso had directed, but that's next. I'm going to check that out. And so anyways, I don't know, it's VHS82 apostrophe. I'm your Wednesday reviewer, and we decided to try to tackle some Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. I just don't want to mess up the names. But again, Lucio Fulci, this is 1988, Bruno Mattei effort. And it's, in the end, it's a good effort, and it's a fun effort. And I think it's always, you know, any of these movies are worth revisiting. They're fun. And so we'll see what the next one has in store. So I guess I'm just going to end there. Those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Hit the like button if you like. Leave a comment. So again, VHS82 apostrophe. And just thanks for joining us here at BodyBags this Wednesday evening. And I will always end off, of course, with Go Bill.